It started with a normal morning. I was standing in the break area of our office in Portland, holding a small bakery box that had already started to soften at the corners. Lemon cupcakes. Nothing fancy. I picked them up on the way in, early enough that the place still smelled like coffee grounds and printer toner. I stepped into my manager's office when he waved me in. He didn't look up from his laptop. "We're going in a different direction," he said. That was it. No preface, no pause. I stayed where I was, the box warm in my hands. I remember noticing that one of the cupcake lids wasn't sitting quite right, like it had shifted in the car. "I don't understand," I said. My voice sounded steady, even to me. "The Northway renewal came through yesterday, and Meridian's signing next week." He sighed, like I was slowing him down, and finally looked up. His eyes flicked to the box. "Oh, is that—" He stopped himself. "Never mind." He leaned back in his chair. "You've done solid work, Rachel, but the company needs fresh energy." He gestured toward the glass conference room across the hall. A young man in a tailored jacket was laughing with our CFO, hands loose, confident. Too confident. "My nephew, Evan," my manager said. "MBA, just wrapped up. He's got some strong ideas about client growth." I felt my throat tighten, but I didn't say anything yet. 2 years earlier, Evan had been an intern who couldn't figure out the badge scanner. Now he was replacing me. "You want me to hand over my accounts today?" I asked. "HR's already prepared your separation paperwork," he said. "We'll need your laptop, phone, and badge before you leave. Evan will be introduced to your clients this afternoon." 7 years. That's how long I'd been there. I nodded once. Then I placed the cupcake box carefully on the edge of his desk. "I'll clear out my office," I said. As I turned to go, he added casually, "Let's keep this professional. I'd hate for references to get complicated." I understood the message. 2 hours later, I was sitting in my car in the underground garage, surrounded by cardboard boxes. My plant, a few framed photos, awards they'd once handed me with speeches about loyalty. Not my client files, not my notes. Those stayed behind. The security guard had watched me pack. Policy. I rested my forehead against the steering wheel and let the quiet catch up with me. Not anger, not yet. Just the slow realization that this hadn't been sudden at all. When I was hired, I was 31, newly divorced, sleeping on my sister's couch in Beaverton. The pay was low, but I needed stability. I worked nights, weekends. I learned systems no one else wanted to touch. I took the difficult clients. I listened. That's how I landed my first major account. Then another. Last year alone, my accounts brought in just over $4 million. I never said that out loud in meetings. I didn't need to. I thought the work spoke for itself. On the drive home, I didn't turn on the radio. I just drove, hands steady, replaying small moments I'd ignored, meetings I wasn't invited to, emails where my name quietly disappeared, requests for quick overviews of my processes. That night, I didn't open the boxes. I sat at my kitchen table, poured a glass of water, and opened my personal laptop. There was a folder on the desktop I hadn't touched in months. It was labeled simply, Notes. I clicked it. Then I waited. The folder opened without ceremony. Inside were subfolders dated by quarter. Each one held simple things: email threads saved as PDFs, call summaries I'd typed for myself, renewal timelines, handwritten notes scanned from legal pads. Nothing dramatic, just records. I closed the laptop again. I wasn't ready for that yet. The first few days after the firing passed quietly. I didn't answer calls. I didn't return messages. I let the world keep moving without me. The boxes from my office stayed in the trunk of my car like something I'd deal with later. On the fourth morning, I woke up before my alarm out of habit. The apartment was still dark. Rain tapped lightly against the kitchen window. I made coffee and drank it standing up, staring at nothing in particular. That's when the memories started lining themselves up, neat and unavoidable. When I first joined the firm, no one wanted the smaller regional clients. Too much work, not enough margin. I took them anyway. I learned how they operated, what they worried about, which promises they'd been given and quietly forgotten. I didn't impress them with big presentations. I returned calls. I followed through. I told them when something wouldn't work. One of those clients became 3. 3 became 10. Eventually, larger accounts followed. My manager used to praise me in meetings. "Rachel keeps things steady," he'd say. "Clients trust her." I believed that meant something. Over time, though, the tone shifted. Praise became absence, then silence. I noticed Evan sitting in on executive reviews last winter. He didn't speak much, mostly nodded, took notes, asked me afterward if I could walk him through how I handled certain renewals. I did, calmly, professionally. Then came the calls. One afternoon in February, a client asked me why someone else had reached out offering additional services they didn't need. I told them it was support staff. I believed that was true. After that, I started writing things down more carefully. Not out of fear, out of clarity. I logged when requests came in, who asked for what, when access was granted, when it wasn't. I saved versions of proposals. I documented decisions that used to live only in conversations. I also started doing something else, quietly. I stopped relying solely on company systems for relationship building. Coffee instead of conference rooms. Texts instead of long email chains. Not to move anything, just to keep connections human. People told me things when there wasn't a logo at the bottom of the screen. By spring, I could feel the shift coming. Not emotionally, structurally. The day the Richardson contract finalized, I wasn't invited to the celebration dinner. I found out from someone in accounting who assumed I'd been there. That night, I updated my resume. I didn't apply anywhere, I just updated it. I also created a document on my personal laptop. 1 page, then 2, then more. It wasn't a plan, it was an inventory. Names, dates, agreements, renewal windows, notes about what mattered to each client beyond the contract. I titled it Plan B, then closed it and told myself I'd probably never need it. Back in the present, sitting at my kitchen table days after the firing, I opened that document again. I didn't read everything. I just scrolled. Later that afternoon, my phone buzzed. A message from my sister asking if I was okay. I typed back that I needed a little time. Then another message came in. This one from a former colleague. Short. Careful. Evan's running the Meridian pitch solo. Wish you were here. I put the phone face down. That evening, I reviewed the separation agreement for the first time. The non-compete was broad, aggressive, almost lazy in how sweeping it was. I highlighted sections, took notes, didn't react. The next morning, I scheduled a consultation with an employment attorney. Earliest opening was 2 weeks out. That was fine. I had time. I closed the document, shut the laptop, and finally went out to the car to bring the boxes inside. I unpacked slowly, placed the plant by the window, set the awards in a drawer. When I finished, the apartment looked like mine again. That night, I reopened Plan B. This time, I started at the top, and I made my first call. Then I waited. The phone rang twice before she answered. "Hello? Hi, Karen. It's Rachel." There was a brief pause, then a soft exhale. "I was hoping you'd call." I leaned back in the chair and kept my voice even. "I wanted to thank you. Working together meant a lot to me." She didn't rush to fill the silence. "Evan reached out yesterday," she said carefully. "Told us you'd moved on." "That's accurate," I said. Nothing more. Another pause. "Do you want to tell me what you're doing next?" "I'm reviewing my options." We agreed to meet for coffee the following week. Not as client and consultant, just two people who'd spent years solving problems together. When the call ended, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt steady. Over the next few days, I made similar calls, one at a time. No pitches, no explanations, just gratitude and closure. Almost every conversation ended the same way. Let's stay in touch. Let me know what you end up doing. I'd love to catch up soon. I wrote nothing down afterward. I didn't need to. I remembered. 2 weeks later, I sat across from the attorney in a small office that smelled faintly of paper and lemon cleaner. She read the agreement without interruption, her pen moving in the margins. "This non-compete is ambitious," she said finally, "especially given your termination circumstances." She asked about performance reviews, warnings, documentation. "There were none," I said. She nodded once. "We can push back." We drafted a counter-proposal. Narrower scope, smaller radius, direct competitors only. I didn't expect it to be accepted. It wasn't. Their response came quickly. "Sign the original or forfeit severance." I declined. That evening, my phone buzzed again. A message from a former teammate. Meridian walked. I stared at the screen longer than necessary. Meridian had taken me a year to secure. I knew every hesitation they'd had, every internal debate. I felt a twinge of regret. Not for the company, for the people still inside it. Then another message followed. Northway's reviewing their options. I set the phone down and didn't reply. A month after the firing, I made a decision. I couldn't consult directly. Not yet. But I could teach. I reached out to a local university and offered to guest lecture on client relationship management. They said yes within a day. Standing in that classroom felt strange at first. But as I spoke, the rhythm returned. Questions, listening, practical steps. After class, a student waited until the room cleared. "My father runs a logistics company," she said. "He's been looking for help." I told her we could talk. By the end of the second month, I had 2 small clients. Different industries, clear boundaries, clean contracts. I worked from my dining table, kept overhead low, logged everything. Meanwhile, I stayed in touch with former clients. Casual messages, life updates. They told me things, not because I asked. One evening, an email came through with a subject line that made me stop. Checking availability. It was from Karen. She wanted to talk about something new, something separate, not connected to the current provider. I closed the laptop and waited until the next morning to respond. Then I agreed to dinner. We met on a quiet Tuesday evening at a small restaurant near the river, the kind of place where the lights stay low and no one rushes you. Karen didn't start with small talk. "We're not renewing," she said, folding her napkin carefully. "Service quality has dropped, communication is scattered, and trust isn't there anymore." I listened. I didn't interrupt. "Our contract allows 30 days notice," she continued. "Before I submit it, I wanted to understand what you're doing now." I explained. Teaching, independent work, careful compliance with the agreement I hadn't signed. She nodded, considering. "What if the work wasn't consulting?" I waited. "We're forming a new subsidiary for our East Coast expansion," she said. "New entity, new registration, new leadership." The words settled slowly. "It would need someone to build systems and relationships from the ground up," she added. "Someone who understands both." I asked one question. "Where would it be based?" She smiled. 26 miles from your former office." I didn't respond right away. We discussed scope, budget, hiring authority, governance. She spoke in timelines. I listened in steps. Step 1, confirm legal separation. Step 2, independent counsel review. Step 3, no overlap, no shortcuts. Silence was part of the process. 2 weeks later, I accepted. I didn't celebrate. I organized. I leased a modest office, hired an accountant, set up compliance protocols, built everything slowly, deliberately. The first person I called was a former colleague I trusted. "Would you consider joining?" I asked. No promises, just clarity. He said yes. Inside my old company, things were unraveling. I heard it secondhand. Missed deadlines, frustrated clients, meetings that solved nothing. I didn't intervene. 3 months after I started, a message arrived that I didn't expect. A connection request from my former manager. I accepted out of curiosity. Minutes later, a message followed. He wanted coffee. No agenda. I agreed. Not for revenge, for closure. We met at a quiet cafe halfway between our offices. Neutral ground, late morning. The place smelled like espresso and toasted bread. He arrived early. That surprised me. He looked thinner than I remembered, less certain. When he stood to greet me, his smile came a beat too late. "You look well," he said. "Thank you," I replied, and sat down. We talked about neutral things at first. Traffic, weather, the city changing faster than either of us liked. He kept glancing at his phone, then turning it face down. Eventually, he cleared his throat. "I'll be direct," he said. "We've had some challenges since you left." I waited. Client retention hasn't been what we expected. Evan is talented, but he's still finding his footing. I nodded once. He leaned forward slightly. "I may have made that decision too quickly. I'm prepared to correct it." I didn't respond right away. I took a sip of coffee. It was too hot. "What does correcting it look like?" I asked. "A VP role," he said quickly. "Significant compensation. Authority over client strategy. We can make it attractive." He was watching my face closely now. I kept my voice even. "I'm not available." He blinked. "We can negotiate." "It's not a negotiation," I said. "I'm settled where I am." A flicker of frustration crossed his face. "This isn't about pride, Rachel. It's business." I looked at him then. Really looked. "That's exactly the problem," I said. "You only see value once it's missing." He opened his mouth, then closed it. "You didn't remove me from a role," I continued. "You removed continuity, memory, trust. Those don't transfer with a title." He leaned back, exhaling sharply. "So what do you want?" The question was genuine. He truly didn't know. "I wanted the work to matter," I said. "I wanted the relationships to be respected." "They did matter," he said quickly. "They still do. That's why I'm here." I shook my head. "No, you see their impact now. That's different." Silence stretched between us. The espresso machine hissed behind the counter. Finally, he said quietly, "I should have handled it differently." I stood and gathered my bag. "Probably," I said, "but that's not something we can fix retroactively." I wished him well, and I meant it. As I walked out, I felt lighter than I expected. Not relieved, just finished. That afternoon, I returned to my office and reviewed hiring applications. One stood out. Strong experience, thoughtful references. I scheduled an interview. Then I put my phone face down. 6 months after I started the new division, the pattern was clear. Not dramatic, not sudden, just steady movement. Clients left my former company quietly. Some cited service gaps. Others mentioned misalignment. A few said nothing at all and simply didn't renew. No announcements, no confrontations. I didn't reach out to them. I didn't need to. When clients did contact us, it was always framed the same way. "We're exploring alternatives. We're restructuring. We were referred." Each onboarding followed the same process: documentation, scope confirmation, clear boundaries, clean timelines, nothing rushed. Inside my former company, the numbers told the story before anyone said it out loud. Revenue dipped, then dipped again. Emergency meetings followed, then restructuring discussions. I heard about it through people I still respected. Short messages, careful language. One afternoon, a former teammate sent a single line, "They're being acquired." I read it once and put the phone down. A few weeks later, another update arrived. New leadership coming in, executive roles being evaluated. Evan being moved into a special projects position. I felt no satisfaction, just acknowledgement. At work, my days were full but calm. Hiring interviews, process reviews, quiet problem solving. I built the team the way I'd always wanted to. Clear expectations, mutual respect, no surprises. One morning, as I reviewed quarterly reports, I noticed something small but meaningful. Client retention across the new division was perfect. I closed the report and sat back for a moment. That evening, I went home on time, made dinner, watered the plant I'd taken from my old office. It had recovered well. I thought briefly about the firing, about the parking garage, the boxes. It felt distant now. Not erased, just integrated. The following week, I received a short email from a former client who hadn't followed us. "Just wanted you to know," it said. "Working with you set the standard. We miss that." I replied with a thank you and nothing else. Some things don't need follow-up. On a quiet Friday afternoon, I updated my calendar for the next quarter. Meetings spaced reasonably. No double-booked days. Room to think. Before shutting down my computer, I opened a new document. It wasn't titled Plan B. It didn't need a name. I saved it and closed the laptop. Then I waited. On my next birthday, I brought cupcakes to the office again. Same bakery, same lemon frosting. This time, I arrived early. The building was quiet, lights still warming up, cleaning crew finishing their rounds. I set the box in the break area and went to my office to drop my bag. My office. The door closed softly behind me. I took a moment before turning on the lights. Nothing dramatic had changed in my life. No sudden wealth, no public vindication. Just order, control. A steady rhythm that belonged to me. The team filtered in one by one. Coffee mugs, casual greetings. Someone noticed the cupcakes and smiled. Someone else lit the candle. We sang, quietly and a little off-key. I watched them from the counter, hands wrapped around a paper cup, and felt something settle. Later that afternoon, I took a short walk around the block. The air was cool. The city sounded distant. I thought about how close I'd come to believing that one decision, made by one person, could erase 7 years of work. It couldn't. That night at home, I cleaned the kitchen, set out clothes for the next day, and turned my phone face down on the table. Outside, traffic hummed. Somewhere nearby, someone laughed. Before bed, I checked one last message. A former colleague, now at a different company, asking if I'd be willing to talk. Nothing urgent, just guidance. I said yes. There are more stories like this than people admit. Quiet ones, where nothing explodes, but everything changes. If you've ever been on the receiving end of a calm sentence that altered your life, you're not alone. If this story resonated with you, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. It helps this space stay thoughtful and human. And if you're watching, let me know in the comments which city you're in and what time it is right now. I read those. 2 more stories will be waiting for you next. Thank you for listening.